On this episode of Narcissist Apocalypse, we talk with an abuse survivor named Sable. And Sable was raised by a narcissistic mother who liked to pit her children against each other. It's a story of control, scapegoating, and finding strength within the dysfunction. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of narcissistic abuse. I am Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad, and thanks for tuning into this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we refer to a narcissist as anyone who has displayed a pattern of behavior that shows a limited capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. It is that simple. And now, before we get to our episode with Betty, I just wanted to thank everyone in the Narcissist Apocalypse community for listening to the show and sharing your thoughts by email, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, a reminder, if you have not left us a review on whatever podcast service you use, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, CastBox, etc., please do leave us a 5-star written review, as it helps out the show a lot when it comes to rankings. Now, if you haven't been to our website recently, please do go there if you want to be part of our show. Go to our website at narcissistapocalypse.com. There's a button there that says guest form. Press it. Then there'll be a guest form. Fill that whole thing out, and then away we'll go. We'll start a process, and hopefully one day you'll be on the show. But the quickest way to be part of our show is to also go to our website at narcissistapocalypse.com and to read a letter to your narcissist and be part of our Letters to Our Narcissist compilation episode. We have a voicemail recorder on our website there, and, it says send voicemail. You press on that button, and away you'll go. It's the second time I've said that. You press it. It records up to 5 minutes. So if you need to record for 10, record for 10. You press it twice. 3 times, 15 minutes. Do it as many times as you need. We are accumulating these letters for a volume 3 of that episode. So send in those voicemails. But if you want myself or my old pal Melissa to read your letter instead, just send it to narcissistapocalypse@gmail.com. Other things that are going on the website, we're offering high-conflict parenting courses that can be found at narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. Yes, we have now partnered with an online parenting company called Online Parenting, and many of the courses we are offering were created by Bill Eddy. And if you've listened to an episode last year with a divorce lawyer named Helen, you'll know that Bill Eddy is an expert in dealing with these individuals in court, and now he's helped create many parenting courses as well to help you through divorce and to help support your children too. These courses are the most widely recognized courses by family courts across the country. So if you want to support the show and are looking for guidance, please do go to narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. And what else do we have here? We have our other podcast, our sister podcast, Narcissist Apocalypse Q&A. It is now available for your listening pleasure, where we talk to therapists and coaches and lawyers and researchers about narcissistic abuse. In the upcoming episode this week, we'll be discussing attachment styles and trauma bonding with Tali Kadosh. And if you're looking for a therapist or coach like Tali Kadosh from our Q&A podcast, or others like her, please do go to abusetherapy.org. That is abusetherapy.org. That is where we have a directory for therapists and coaches. If we don't have someone in your area, let us know, and we will help find someone for you. Using abusetherapy.org helps support the show. But do you know what else helps support the show? Our Patreon. Yes, we started a Patreon. If you want to hear episodes that never made it to air, follow-up episodes with former guests, and much, much more, join our Patreon. We're releasing new content on there every week. So to help support the show, become a patron of our Patreon at patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. And this week we had a couple episodes up. One of them was a pop culture episode where me and my old pal Melissa discussed Livia Soprano from The Sopranos. That was a fun episode to do, as well as an episode that never made it to air. And what else do we have here before we begin? We have our Instagram and our YouTube channel. We're making fun pop culture, narcissist-based videos on there. You can find them both at Narcissist Apocalypse if you go to YouTube or to Instagram. And that is it, everyone. I'm going to get out of my way and your way. Here is my conversation with Sable. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, everyone. With me today, I have Sable. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing my best to stay out of the heat today. We're having a little bit of a heat wave. I know you are too. And today we are going to listen to your story about being raised in a narcissistic household, specifically, I guess, your narcissistic mother. And we are going to refer to your mother today as T-Pain. That is the nickname that you gave her because you do not feel that she deserves the name Mom anymore. And I'm sure there is many people out there that feel the exact same way. And I'm now just going to get out of my way and your way. And the floor is now yours.
All right. So, I was born into a narcissistic home. My father had me when they were teenagers, and I don't think that helped. But learning later how narcissistic it actually was the biggest eye-opener for me and everything that I actually dealt with. So when I was 3, my father left me. And my mother had taken care of me. I know that she had always done the best she knew how when I was younger. But as time grew, it definitely became more selfishly motivated on her part. I know when she met a man who was 10 years older than her, lived in the same neighborhood complex, and when I was a baby, she would leave me in the crib sleeping while she would go and spend hours with this guy. And my grandma actually, she told me this because she came over, surprise, and my mom wasn't there. So I know she was kind of after her own heart. Which when you have a kid, it shouldn't be that way. And so she ended up marrying this man. And he adopted me as his own. He is amazing. He's a war vet. He had been through a lot. I know he wasn't the best father I could have ever had, but he's always been consistent and always there for me, and always understanding and listening and loving me, and hearing me out. However, that wasn't the case for my mom. She may have been jealous of that quality. I don't know. But having them get married, and he had 2 kids of his own, and those 2 kids, they were not very nice to me. So they were manipulative, and they probably were going through their own understanding of what actually was going on too. They were definitely older, but they were.
So how old were you when your mom got remarried to this man, or when T-Pain got remarried to this man?
Yeah, I was 3 when all of that happened. So I know within a year it was like married, adopted, and then
how old are your siblings?
So my oldest is, oh gosh, so he would have been 12 when I was 3, mm-hmm. I think. And then my sister, my stepsister, adopted sister, she is 2 years older than me. So she would have been 5.
So for all intents and purposes, you're growing up with them, and to you, they're not even in a certain way adopted or half siblings, because it's pretty much all you know is having
correct.
Them.
Yeah.
Where maybe for the 12-year-old, it's quite awkward, or has a different impact on him, because at this point we have no idea what he kind of has gone through as well.
Right. He knows right from wrong, but nothing around him makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then there's the 5-year-old, the sister, who, is taking his lead. So I was kind of just dropped into this situation and not really welcomed with open arms, or, it was just blame me because I was just there. And so it was very, very unsettling at a young age. I did have my biological father's parents who they were fighting for me for a long time, and they were my safe place. I was their pride and joy. They'd take videos of me, and it was just, that was a safe, loving place. So I knew what that was. But at home it was completely different. It was a dog-eat-dog world. And it was weird. But yeah, eventually my T-Pain and my dad, who adopted me, they had a child, and that was kind of my mom, or T-Pain. I keep, what it happened. She birthed me, but she's the pain of my life. So they had a kid, and that was like her way of making up for all the things that she did in the 6 years of having me wrong. And she spoiled the crap out of her and gave her everything, and kind of used her as a way to socially adapt in the world. And I don't know, if I understood all aspects of narcissism and why they do what they do, it would be much clearer for me. But really, it was she was her goat. And later in the story, I'll explain more, but she pretty much did eventually the same thing to my little sister that she did to me. And, but jumping back into the past, it's a lot. So, as time went on, we all moved in together in one house. At that point, I didn't see my grandparents as much. And for the longest time, I was blaming them, like they've abandoned me. And I never understood why. And then, things started to unravel. My older sister was very jealous and very manipulative. I couldn't go through school the way a normal person would go through school. I couldn't make friends. She had told everybody that I was toxic and I was just anything and everything. And I would wonder why people are being weird towards me and why I can't, I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on. And also when we moved in together, my step-adopted brother, he thought it would be okay to touch me inappropriately. And it became a thing that was happening until I was 12 years old. And at that point, he had a girlfriend. It was a freshman in high school, and they got pregnant. So she kind of saved my life there on that. But I was still dealing with my sister, and after she had left school, kids were mean to me then. They were bullying me, and I just never understood, like, what went on, why. And until, like, when I graduated high school, she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was just really jealous of you, and I went to college, and I, and I just realized, how hard that must have been." Like, which is great, but she still is doing the same things to this day. But then, growing up, T-Pain never allowed, like, my sister and I to even be close. She acted like my sister was my dad's girlfriend and wouldn't let my dad be her dad, and she wouldn't let me have a sister, and she wouldn't allow any of that. She would break people down to where they felt like they were nothing. And my older sister, she was bulimic, and she had alcoholism, and at a very young age because of it. And she would take it all out on me. And, I kind of feel bad for her in a way because she doesn't know anything else. But, my dad and I really took the brunt of T-Pain, and we were her goat. What's the word?
Scapegoat.
We were her a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And she would make me clean the toilet with my older sister's toothbrush because she was bulimic and would get puke all over the toilet. And she was just mad because she ate the food in the house. And she would put me up to it instead of talking about it and making sure that she was okay. Like, she's a human being and she's going through something hard. And she would just pen us. You can go into,
Sable.
Sable, you can go into, you can go into your sister's room and get whatever you want. Start a war. This is fun for me. And you guys will never be close. And she got my dad broken down so far to where he doesn't even talk. When he first adopted me, he was so willing to throw us in the pool and, play hide and seek and throw a ball and be a human being with kids. And they later got a divorce like 3 years ago. And at the end of their marriage, he was quiet. He wouldn't talk. He wouldn't laugh. He sat in a chair all day long and didn't move. it was awful watching, and I felt that same way. She took away friendships from me. She took away family members. She broke me down to where I had no self-worth. And I was scared to go to college, and I was scared to grow, and I was scared to even ask for the little things that people actually ask for in life, as far as like, how do I get to where I want to be, and what do I want to be, and how, ruining relationships with friends that I've made in the past, telling them too much personal to where it's like taking what she does and how she reacts to a situation that's normal. Me, as a small child, walking up to a teacher, thinking that when another kid was hugging that teacher, and me thinking that kid bit the teacher, I bit the teacher, and she just, like that, I thought that was a form of affection. I didn't know. And she took something like that and twisted it to where she looked amazing. I looked like a terrible kid. It's like this is the kind of stuff that happened all my life, into my adulthood, with family members and friends, and especially after being 18 years old, 17 years old, and getting raped and having to have a child from that rape. She used my parents that I picked out for her own gain, and did not support me at all through the rape and the turmoil that comes with that, the adoption, the abandonment, all of it. From the rape, I was able to tell her about what my stepbrother was doing. And she then would talk about beating him up and tell me that they're going to go hang out, and she's going to do this and this and this with them, go to the pumpkin patch and take them to the pool, and things that she doesn't actually do with me. And
she said she was going to do that with the adopted family?
No, with my brother, my stepmother, after I told her about what happened to me. It just blew my mind. Slowly, after all these different instances, with the adopted family that I picked out, she had reached out to them beyond me after explaining to her that she needs to go through me. I don't feel comfortable with her going directly to them without involving me. For good reason. And she went beyond me to plan a trip to go see them. And that's what she did. And I remember the phone call. I was actually sick, and she was calling, and I thought she was calling to check on me and say, Sable, how are you doing? Do you need anything? I would say, no, thank you. I'm fine. I'm okay. And then she went straight into telling me, oh, by the way, I'm going to Texas to see your son that you gave up for adoption. And I already talked to their family. And it was like, she loves rubbing it in my face. I set a boundary, and she takes it and she rubs it in my face, the exact opposite of, what a parent should be doing. It's just, it's awful. My dad he was not comfortable enough saying and standing up for me or any of his kids. And his kids lost a lot of respect for him for that. But they weren't the full-on scapegoat. No one talks about it. No one acknowledges it. Everyone caters to this behavior, and so it's hard to get some sort of closure from it. And I had to gray rock everybody because of it. The relationship with the adopted family and I, which is, it's an open adoption. It's more difficult than it should be because of her. It's a lot. It's a lot of years of a lot of abuse and a lot of crossing boundaries and suppressing feelings. And
when it comes to your siblings, I guess your older sister, and I guess pitting all of you against each other, did it, your sister apologized to you years later, but at the same time is still in it and can't, it seems she's still doing the same types of patterns over and over again. Is she conscious of what has really happened in everyone's role, or she just saw that she didn't do this properly, or she didn't treat you well, and has, in a sense, not looked inward as to why that has happened?
You're right on about that. She's conscious of her action. She's definitely, I think, reflected within herself, and it's very narrow. She has not dug deep and does not realize why these things have happened.
Does she have a relationship with with T-Pain?
She does, yes. And I was very surprised. And she actually would invite her to family functions, like her child's birthdays, and they would go snow tubing together, and they would have visits together. And when you're at a family function, or when I'm at a family function and around the family members that T-Pain has affected, my grandma, who she won't give her great grandma's wedding ring back because of selfish reasons. And my adopted grandma, she's up there. She just wants her great grandma's ring. And, adding that stress is awful. And, being around the people who have been affected by T-Pain and going into these family get-togethers and functions, like the birthdays, most specifically it's the birthdays, it's hard to be around that and having nobody say anything, and having my sister not see how it affects everybody, and not even understand how much it affects everybody. I mean, my dad, who has to see her at his actual blood daughters and grandchildren's birthday parties, and his ex-wife, who has caused him so much pain, how can he enjoy those little things? How can he enjoy his kids and the joy that life brings when the biggest pain is around and constantly is around? And unless unless my sister sees why, like you said, and digs deep, and why is this happening, and why, then everyone's going to be so uncomfortable, and she just adds to the problem.
So when your relationship with her is broken down, because it was interesting to me what you said was that you are the scapegoat of the family, you and your stepdad, and your older sister is jealous of you, which is really interesting, just to kind of hear that, because she's, I like to look at it in the sense of like, she's angry at you for something that wasn't your fault, and or whatever was going on, and whatever her relationship with T-Pain was, and instead of taking her anger out on the person that should have the anger taken out on, she's still so far in it that she's taken it out on the wrong person her whole entire life, and just kind of doesn't know really still kind of what's going on. Does your younger sister have the same issues? Do you have the same issues with your younger sister, or does she have was she the complete golden child to your younger sister? Because you said earlier that eventually your T-Pain started to treat her the same way she treated you. So if that happened, what changed?
Yeah. So when I mentioned them getting a divorce, my T-Pain and my dad, when they got a divorce, T-Pain met another man, and he has 3 kids, all girls, and
so at this point, how old are you?
This is current day.
Oh, okay, this is current day. Okay. And how old is your younger sister compared to you?
She is, so I'm 29 and she is 22.
Okay.
So T-Pain was babying my younger sister up until 2 years ago, till she met this man.
And your relationship with your sister up until that point was, how would you characterize it?
A roller coaster. She had always been my safe place beyond my grandparents. So I took on the role of really protecting her from everything happening in the house, doing my best to protect her from my older brother, doing my best not to let my older sister bully her like I was bullied. I took on this role, this parenting role of nurturing and protecting her and making sure she is developing properly, and finding friends. And I took her out one day and we went around the neighborhood and kind of went friend shopping. I'm like, you've got to have some friends. So kind of at an early age, I really did know what was going on and was able to help her. At that point, though, when he was using her for social status and whatever selfish reason and motive she had, my little sister did have a lot of friends, and some were sheriffs of the town, and detectives, and that was a sense of, a lot of them were well off, so they, it was a sense, it was all fake. And eventually my little sister was fed while I was just kind of out there trying to get away from it all and figure out life. T-Pain really got into my little sister's head, and it created space between us, and space that was so big that neither of us really understood what was happening. And, you know, it wasn't really fights. It was more like questions, like, why are you not coming to family functions? Why, you know, she was very confused, and I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to put my thumb on exactly. I mean, it's a big statement to come out and say, T-Pain's the reason. I mean, it's just...
How much fear did you have just being able to say that, knowing that there could be a huge blowback or repercussions? Were you still at that point scared of not having a family in that sense, of like not being in contact with any of them, or not even having an option to?
Absolutely. When I kind of had a little taste of it when I was 18, after I gave my son up for adoption from the rape, I was kicked out of the house because I didn't want to take birth control. It's just a personal preference. I still feel the way I do about it. But at 18, I kind of was kicked out into the world. I lived in the side of a tiny little motel in the side of a bar. Shouldn't have even been there. It was sketchy. But I worked as hard as I could as an aide, and, you know, I did what I could. So I was already really scared of the world and facing it. You know, she didn't really set me up for success to look good, or Amber even. Like, it was so easy for her to just make me look so bad, and control that relationship. And it was years. It was a good long, from the time my little sister was in high school until recently. My little sister and I have been fighting for each other for about 2 years now, and finally we're at a place where we can talk and we can tell each other that we love each other unconditionally, and we're, you know, and T-Pain left, or my little sister, and just abandoned her just recently to be with this family. And the hardest part about all of it, and my little sister and I are not exactly on the same page yet, but we're still fighting for each other, and that's what I'm holding on to. But
she's beginning to see.
She's beginning to see and feel and know, and I don't really think that until she has her own kids, she'll be able to take down that wall and that barrier and that blocking it out. Because she still kind of has T-Pain on a pedestal at this point. You know, she's blaming the boyfriend. She's blaming everything else around that surrounds T-Pain, instead of realizing these are her choices. She's an adult. This is what she has done. She has abandoned you. And I don't want to be the one to say that, because, you know, we're still building our relationship, and, you know, she's got to figure it out. And I don't think because I've tried until I was blue in the face, and it just caused more distance. And I'd rather have her close.
So when you're having all of this mistrust going on in your household, you can't trust a soul, and you obviously cannot trust your mom with your feelings or anything along those lines. I guess at what point, I don't know if this happened for you, but during high school maybe, or junior high, did you have any friends, and did you have friends that you could confide in that could that you could point these things out to, and they could say, yes, like, I believe you, what is going on, I see it myself? Or did you have none of that?
I didn't have any of that, sadly. I was by my, so T-Pain, she had 3 other kids. She had her golden child, and she had 2 kids who were just completely not hers, out of control. She wanted to control every aspect of their life. So with me being hers, it was easier for her just to ground me and keep me at home. And I was grounded for the stupidest things, anything and everything. I was grounded, so I had no real opportunity and chance to live a normal childhood.
And your siblings didn't have the same rules as you?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
So you never had like sleepovers with other kids or any regular relationships that one might typically have as a teenager?
Not very often, no. She would have, so T-Pain, she's very religious. And so she would have kids from the church come over and stay the night and tell them to play and spend the night with me. And it was always just weird. It was just weird. I don't know how else to put it. It wasn't a normal sleepover. My sleepovers were at Grandma and Grandpa's house. That was the best time, the biggest memories of sleepovers that I ever had.
And did you confide in them about what was going on, or did you stay quiet as well?
I stayed quiet. I don't think I understood that it was wrong.
So did you battle depression at all?
I may have unknowingly, but I was a fighter. I would find any other way to distract myself with what was going on. So that be writing in my room by myself. That'd be playing with tadpoles, in the back pond. I would find something to learn and to distract myself. I drew a lot. I wrote.
What did you write and draw about?
Sometimes I would write about, I blamed myself a lot as a child. So a lot of my writings were like why questions, and it was really dark. It was very dark. So probably I did battle depression. I probably most likely did. And then draw. I would draw anything and everything. I was so creative. I would find sticks and make a little tiny display, or I do just about anything and everything creative. Now my parents wouldn't they wouldn't, if I did something like got a job or volunteered somewhere, then I was able to leave the house, but then I'd have to come right back home afterwards. So that helped. Once I hit that age to be able to get out, I was volunteering at our local arts castle, and that was a great way for me to get out there. But even then, it was, I was still a little socially awkward, and it was just something I could do. It was the kids' art room, and I would do arts and crafts with kids for hours. So I do something like that, and then they had no real idea of what I was doing. I have to go volunteer. Okay, well, what time to what time? It was all numbers. Come back at this time. And I think the best way to explain it is I was just laced on this game of life. And, you know, I could roll the dice and maybe move a block, and maybe I had to go, you know, pay $100. You know, it was just
your taxes. Did you daydream a lot during that time of like a future and what you wanted it to look like?
I did. There was a game that was pretty popular. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but it was a house game. So you pick your house, and
I remember this game.
Yeah.
You live in a mansion with a guy named John. That game?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So those, like, I would do stuff like that. But I never really dreamt of a family or anything. That was just more so like the fun of it, just keeping up with the trends and trying to be a part of something, you know. But it was even when I was out on my own, I'm like, I don't see me having kids. Like, this rape was enough. Like, I don't want a family. I just want to live my life to the best of my ability and try to experience every little thing that I can. That was a little dangerous, but it did lead me to my husband, who I have now. I was hugely in the music scene after I was free. I like to put it. I was free. So we met at one of his shows. He's a drummer, and he didn't want to meet anybody. I didn't want to meet anybody. So we were on the same page. And I think that's kind of what drew us into each other. And we both ended up just being really, really good for each other and allowing each other to grow and heal. And, he had some experiences in his life, child of divorce. So we were able to kind of break each other down and build each other back up. And, you know, it's amazing what I got through. And I'm sure he can say the same, since we've been with each other. And,
were there any other people in between, or did you just become like the luckiest person in the world that somehow, after everything that you had been through and whatever issues you were bringing in, that you really possibly lucked out with a 1 in, 1,000 shot here? The other 999 could have been terrible for you, and you could have fallen into the same patterns that you were before? Or were you kind of mentally knew what you were looking for and what to look out for? Were you kind of, I'm not going to say grown, but I'm not going to use the word smart either, just aware of like what was toxic at that point and what you needed to stay away from?
That's a really good question. I did have my one bad relationship. This guy was the epitome of T-Pain, but not religious. I mean, it was awful. I mean, he took from me a little bit more from what T-Pain took from me. And that actually, though, was the point where I knew that this is wrong. I should be treated like this. Like, that was just my snapping point. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm not I'm not getting in a relationship. I need to do some soul searching and really experience life for myself and not with somebody, because obviously this is just not working out. I mean, he was an alcoholic. He was abusive. It was always about him. It was constantly he was just a vampire, constantly just sucking the life out of me. Although his family was awesome, his family was really good to me. And they all knew how bad my family was to me. They all knew, well, we're gonna help you. Though, we wish we weren't like helping you as much as we were, because, I think that I had no other choice at that point. Supporting myself since I was 18 was exhausting. And I think that all of that situation that had occurred with that boyfriend who was just a repeat of the narcissistic behavior that I was used to, it opened up my eyes even more, and also gave me a safe place to where I can get back on my feet where I need to be. So I don't look at it as fully being a bad thing. And I think I break it down to, we all have that one bad relationship that we learn from of what not to do. As sad as that is.
So when you met your, current husband, what were your biggest issues going in? What do you feel has been healed by your relationship with your current husband? And what are things that you're still having trouble with? And I think you said you've since become a mom, correct?
Yeah.
And what has, motherhood and having children, what have you kind of done differently? And what did you learn about your abuse once you had those kids and could really understand things, a little bit better, or see things more clear?
Yeah, I definitely learned my self-worth, first and foremost. Trust came after that, being able to trust again, building healthy relationships, knowing even how to start to do that.
How do you start to do that?
Slowly. Not opening up about all this trauma that I've been holding in, but getting to know that other person and really listening and, continuing. It's watering the garden of relationships, and just slowly. But
along the lines of healthy relationships don't start based upon the shared trauma, but let's start based on shared interest and shared likes and shared things that we both enjoy.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'm learning that when you instantly go into a relationship and bring out, it's a turnoff for a lot of people. It's a lot for them to take in, and although they might not think differently of you, it's just a lot to process. I mean, for myself, it's a lot to process. So I can't expect just putting that on somebody to hopefully build a healthy relationship to, process that as well. because there are people who care, who are good, and will slowly hear you out when it gets to the point of being able to open up about that stuff. And it kind of, for me, I've learned to let somebody else open up first. And then if I feel like I need to share, then I will share. So it's that selfless ping pong. You're just, you're kind of going back and forth. Because of that, I've gained a whole new mom, which she is awesome. And I call her Mama B. And she is just, her mom had left when she was really young, and she said she always wanted a mom. So we're not building that relationship off of trauma, because we built it off of trust first. And then the trauma thing came later, and then we've just grown from there. And it's blossomed into this family now. Like, we are each other's family at this point, and we can fulfill those voids, and we can add happiness, and, just being able to build that relationship slowly. And my son, that I have now with my husband, can build a relationship and have that grandmother figure. And, she can feel that as well. So, it took years. It took her and I about, I would say, 6 years to get to the point of, okay, you're my mama. And she's like, okay, you're my daughter. But
as far as learning about what happened and seeing it from a different point of view, once you had children, what was, I guess, the biggest things you started to notice that you didn't receive? And where did you ever get resentment or an anger again or anything like that once you had children, in the sense of how you felt about the situation?
Absolutely. I would step away and just kind of breathe. But I didn't get the guidance. I didn't get the love, the freedom to be who I was. I didn't get the knowledge to succeed in life. And, I have to kind of approach my parenting a little slower. Whereas, like, my husband, he's like, full hands on deck. Like, this is my first kid, I'm ready. And he's so excited about it. For me, I was a little slower about it. I mean, I love being a mom, and I take so much pride and joy being a mom, especially having given a child up. That definitely fuels my passion for being the best mom that I can be. I want to set that example. And but I do go a little slower. Things are a little more emotional for me. But I've learned what not to do, and I've learned in my career of being a caregiver, different healthy aspects and different families. I've picked up things along the way, and I've really taken it in and asked questions as far as, like, what do you do with your child when you're home on a weekend? I'm a caregiver, so I used to take care of kids with disabilities and elderly, and I've gained a lot of wisdom being in families where even in the elderly homes, their kids actually come and visit them and care for them and want the best for them. And they're very hands-on about their care and their love, and it's unconditional. And same with the families that the kids have, you know, they're all very hands-on. Like, okay, my kid has a disability. I want to make sure I set up my child for success. That's helped me learn a lot and has made this process of being a first-time parent, having gone through what I've gone through, a lot easier. Just knowing. But I do go a little slower. I'm a little bit slower paced as far as me being hands-on. So, you know.
And what was the biggest catalyst for you to go? Are you completely no contact with your family? Well, at least T-Pain?
Absolutely. The only person I talk to is my dad, who adopted me, and my little sister. And the catalyst to that was I went about a year to start without talking to T-Pain, and she asked me if I could go to a counseling session with her to maybe talk through some things and get on the same page. And, you know, me being the optimistic person I am, I said, yes, I'd love that. So I went to this counseling session with her, and the counselor had asked about my son, who I gave up for adoption, and if she would be willing to take my lead, and if he came to town to visit, if I didn't want to visit him, would she not go as well and support my decision? And she just said no, and she started crying in the session and made it about her and said, well, I have a relationship with this family. And the counselor and I just kind of looked at each other, and I know I had this look of defeat, and that was the catalyst. I knew that nothing was going to change, that this is so embedded inside of her that there's nothing I can do. I can go to counseling session after counseling. Nothing will change. She will always be selfish and that self-motivated. And there will always be a tornado of events happening all around her.
And did you eventually hear through the grapevine after the fact when you did go no contact with her? Did you flat out say it, or did you just kind of just not respond?
Oh, I didn't ghost her. I did tell her.
Okay.
And I told her, you know, this isn't good for me. This isn't healthy. We need, you know, I need some space. And she tried sending cards, and it was just, one of the cards said, I know where you live, because I had bought my first house, and she figured out where I lived and sent a card and said, I know where you live. She sent one card to my son saying, you can't keep him from me forever. And it got to the point where her mom, my grandmother, had called, and we had a conversation about this, and we were supposed to be meeting for our birthdays because our birthdays are a day apart, and it's our tradition. And instead, she made it about her. And why aren't you talking to T-Pain? You need to give her a break. Being raped and going through an adoption is nothing compared to going through 2 divorces. so you need to get over it. You can't keep her grandson from her. And it became a whole, like, attack me session. And she even had a card for me, a birthday card, and she didn't give it to me because she didn't like how it went, because this was me standing up for myself and saying, you know, this isn't, I'm not going to, that's not the same. It's not the same. And, you know, that they're two different situations and we're two different people. And if she wants, you know, if this is hard for her, you know, she needs to talk about it. Like, I'm talking about this being hard for me. And we all need support. We're all going through something hard. And, you know, it was just awful. It then transpired into, well, I don't understand why you're keeping your son, who you gave up for adoption, away from us, and why you're blocking that off. And he's our family too. And I had told her, you know, I gave up those rights. Something bad happened to me, and I had to do this, and I gave up those rights. It's up to that family, and it would be disrespectful for you guys to go behind my back and beyond me to communicate to this family and meet up beyond me, because it's my trauma. You guys are my family. You're supposed to be supporting me and nurturing me through this. And at that point, I knew where T-Pain got it. I knew that this wasn't just T-Pain and her growing up being handed everything. This probably added to it, but this was more. This was generations of a family curse that stopped, hopefully, at me. And it's not hard to go against family curses. It's not hard. It is hard to rebel against the family curses and generational curses of complete narcissism. I mean, I think I am lucky. This is one of those stories where it's just a miracle.
You are breaking a cycle, and you did it by yourself, which is very difficult to do. Obviously, you met the right person eventually, but even before that, I mean, to be aware of everything that was going on, you know, the fact that even in your previous relationship before this, your husband, that you stumbled upon a family, this one bad person's family that was so supportive of you. So even with all these terrible things going on, these moments of kind of luck or kind of stepped in the way, but you also did a lot of work and knew who you were. And I think it's very difficult for a lot of people that would have gone through the same situation that you did, that might have not had a sense of identity in the way that you did, and could have traveled down worse roads for a long time. But it seems like you always had this strength in you. And so when you were in like your room and you were when you were drawing and you were writing, do you feel like that was where your identity of this kind of strength formed while you were in there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing could stop me in that point. You know, I was going to create. That was what I could control. I can't control my environment. I can't control, you know, anything else around me, but I can control this. I can create. I can write. I painted. I can paint. These are things that I can control.
And when you did the service work, when you did volunteer, did that influence you as far as people in the outside world appreciating you?
I think so. It gave me a little glimmer of hope that I'm doing the right thing. If anything else,
and like and your value, that you had value to other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it took me a while to understand that I did have value, but that definitely, it was a hook, you know, it helped.
Mm-hmm. So before we leave today, do you have any last words of wisdom that for people who might have grown up in the same situation that you did, currently could be in this situation right now and haven't gotten no contact? Anything, because you have really blossomed, it sounds like, and have transformed what could have been a terrible situation into a life that you love and sound like you are thriving and being the best person you can be. So let us know how, like, your words of wisdom.
Yeah. The one thing that kept me going was facing uncomfortable situations, and being confident, knowing who you are through those uncomfortable situations. I think a lot of people shy away from facing uncomfortable things because it's uncomfortable. But really facing those situations head on, knowing that in the end, it's going to be okay. You are going to make it through. And, at the end of the day, the sun's going to go down and the moon's going to come up and it's going to go all over again. So, just being able to realize that days go on and you can face it, and, that's not going to change. That really has helped me.
Well, Sable, I want to thank you for being on our show today. It was a pleasure. Sorry, were you going to say?
I said, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it was my pleasure having you here and talking with you, and I think a lot of people will feel less alone by listening to your story. So thank you very much. And for everyone else out there who is listening, I hope you have a good night.